So, Larry, people on X, our friends, not our friend, well, our associates, the people that we see every day on X are very, very nervous because Tesla went down 22 today. So, did you get nervous, Larry? Did
I
you?
hardly ever noticed.
Yes.
You know what actually the reason I noticed is because, in prep for the show, I have to look at what the market did.
Right,
Now I saw it amongst many other stocks that went down actually.
right. Yeah, I
The only
think,
stocks that did not go down today,
yeah.
stocks that I recently sold in preparation for year end.
Oh, well, thank you very much for, could you have let us know about that before the event? Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'd sold them and those stocks went up.
Oh, they went up. I'm sorry, you went the wrong way. I'm sorry. I missed that. Okay. So, well, Larry, what can I say? Can't win them all, right? But remember, did you sell them at a profit?
Oh yeah, I mean those stocks did. No, the one stock didn't do too well for me, and the other stock did very well for me. But year end, I try and think about where I want to be for the next year, and
Mhm, mhm.
and I think that I'm pretty well positioned. I think I'm well positioned. I own Tesla. How badly can I be positioned?
For 2025 and 2026, I can't even imagine how, and we'll be talking a tremendous
Yeah,
amount.
I think 25 is going to be a rocky year. I think it's going to have a lot of ups and downs, much like the last month or two, because people's anxiety levels are very high as at the same time as their expectations are very high. So every
Right.
time expectations don't quite meet the date or it's going to go. So it's going to be a rocky year. Great for people who like that kind of stuff, but not great for people who, look at their stocks every day. Fine for people who know that, they're in for a 2, 3, 5 year ride, but not for anybody else.
Yeah, so I guess for today well, in fact, let's take a look here. I,
Okay.
I I'm going to refer to Gary Black a lot today. Okay. So Gary Black and I have been having a lot more correspondence over the last few days on X. Well, he was quoted on Barron's today. And on Barron's, the quote was he believes that Tesla basically just followed the market at roughly the 2 beta that it normally does. And so that was his first thought with regard to today's action. And
He's
actually,
right.
I actually agree with him. Yeah, I think that's,
He's right.
I
Yeah, I
think
think
that's
so.
about right. So then he said he thinks 10-year treasuries are weighing on the market right now. And I agree with him 100%.
He's right.
Right. And you and I were talking before we came on that the 10-year treasuries are a problem primarily because the bond buyers are concerned about the federal deficit and whether or not it's going to be able to be controlled or whether we're going to continue in this crazy way. And we've been talking about that on this channel for a while.
Yeah, I think that if Congress had taken the bit in their teeth and listened to Elon and actually put their foot down, I think bonds would have gone down.
Mm,
So the Federal Reserve is no longer in charge, no longer in control, not charge, in control
right,
of interest rates.
right.
Right now, interest rates are a function of what the federal government writ large is doing. So as long as the federal government is unable to control expenditures and the budget deficit remains as high as it is, the Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve, not we, but the Federal Reserve is no longer in control of interest rates. I think. I think they can possibly affect it at the margins,
Mhm, mhm.
but I think it's a little bit out of their control. And we have to get control. So, either Trump and Elon win and get this federal deficit on a path, or these interest rates are going to be higher for longer, and for very long.
Yeah. So then I want to put, now I'm going to put my optimistic spin on the entire thing.
You always do, but
Of
so
course.
go.
But I think you're going to agree with me. Interest rates right now, even at 4.6 for the treasuries, it's normal. It's historically probably right in the middle of where they've been over 100 years.
Yeah, but it's on a path that is going to be extremely uh, impactful. I think it's on its way down, on
Yeah.
its way up,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
So,
stocks,
so
yeah, are going to have
yeah,
a hard time.
I think that's debatable and it may, but I'm just saying for right now, it's at a normal level. And in addition to that, the S&P, well, all the indices and Tesla are this close to all-time highs. So it's not we shouldn't be none of these people should be concerned that it's the end of the world. Actually, things are quite good right now.
They are, you know, we've had a really good run, and the country appears to have missed, a very serious recession. I think uh, I'd have to admit, despite my pessimism earlier, but I don't think we're on a good path.
Yeah.
I think I think this is the road to perdition, because I look at the projected deficits, and we're getting to a point where, we could be facing some very serious problems,
Mhm.
not because of the deficit today or tomorrow, but if this continues for another 2, 3, 4, 5 years, at some point it gets out of control. And we have to change this trajectory.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the VIX went up sharply today, and that's kind of when the stock market took its next leg down. Why
Hmm.
do you think? Because the VIX, I don't think the VIX was responding to a 4 basis point increase in the 10-year. What do you think the VIX was responding to today? We had a little bit of dust up with the Houthis and stuff, but it wasn't like a big dust up.
That's not, yeah, I don't think that would affect it. I
China,
don't know.
China made some noise about our ships down by Taiwan and don't put your weapons in Taiwan. I mean, but that again, that seemed kind of normal.
But Russia has been breaking all these fiber optic connections
Mm.
in Europe. This could be a new threat. I, there's nothing, maybe it's a problem, maybe it's not. I mean, if we close the Finnish Straits and or the North Sea to Russia ships, that
That could be
could
a
get
problem.
very, very, exciting. Russia keeps sinking their own ships. It's Russia is a mystery. It's anyway.
Yeah.
The point is, I don't see a particular reason, but Russia. I mean, the VIX went up by what is it, 8.3%, but it's only 1.22 points. It's up to 15.95. It's not in serious territory yet.
Oh, okay. All right. So 15.9. So that's actually still kind of in the normal range for the low end. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So it
But
wasn't
it went up. It did go up.
8%. Yeah, right. Yes. All right. So then Gary's next thing was he responded to my $10,000 price target for 2030. You and I started something on Monday, Larry. I don't know if you
Yeah.
noticed that, but when we did that $10,000 price target thing, that got comments from Cern and from we got all kinds of people talking about that number. And he said that he could see that number. Gary Black said he could see that number as the high side number, as the top of the range. But then he also said, well, Randy, what is your low side number? So that got me thinking, Larry. So I'd like you maybe to work through the low side number with me.
All right.
We'll do it on the fly.
I'm game.
Okay, so my first thought was if Tesla is unable to crack FSD unsupervised. I mean, totally unable. Never happens. That would be low side, right?
Oh yeah, that would be catastrophic.
And then if in addition somebody else did crack it, and they
Wow.
could on a mass production vehicle, most likely BYD, right? Because they
Yeah.
would have the mass production capacity and they would have the China market. So if FSD gets it and we don't get it, I think that would be a huge blow to Tesla. And that would obviously eliminate probably well, out of that 10,000, probably a couple of 150,000 of the, I mean, out of the 10,000, 2,500 maybe of that 10,000
Or more.
or more. Yeah. Yeah. All right. We agree on that. Okay.
Because Tesla are not seeking um, a full coverage of the auto market, so the auto sales will be constrained. Uh, FSD would not leverage their pricing.
Right.
So I think we'd have to look very carefully at what autos could and energy could deliver,
Right.
and then it all rests on the bot, on
Right.
Optimus.
Right. And of course, in that situation, it could go the reverse to where Tesla would then license from whoever it was that did accomplish the result. If somebody else actually got it right, they could license that last piece, that missing patch. Because right now it looks like we're like this close.
If they don't do it, it's because they need some additional sensors,
Yeah.
whether it's very high definition radar, whether it's LiDAR, whether it's something else. And so it puts 7 million cars out of the fleet.
Right.
It also means that there's going to be a cost to them, you know, and it means that they're going to have to compete, with the winner.
Right.
It doesn't augur well.
All right. So I'm going to go with a slightly less drastic result. So let's say Tesla does crack it and gets approximately the same quality of automated ride hail, um, you know, uh, uh, that somebody else does. Somebody else also does. So we have one competitor, which is kind of the Gary Black scenario, right? He thinks maybe even more than one person.
Oh yeah, he thinks more than one. Yeah.
Okay. So then if that happens, I'd still expect Tesla, and I think Gary Black would expect Tesla to get 20 to 25% of the total ride hail business. If
I
there was,
don't see why. I don't see how they would.
you don't see that they would, if there was more than one player, they wouldn't still get 20 to 25% of the market.
I don't see a reason for them to dominate a market in which they're a second string player.
What if they're equal? I'm saying equal player. Everybody has the same.
Highly unlikely. If they have to pay the winner's going to take most.
Oh, okay. Let's not, we're taking away the licensing thing. I'm just saying Tesla gets it, somebody else gets it. They both get it.
Somebody else does achieve the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 20-25% of the market is a potential. This
Okay.
is a second. This is not. They're unable to do it, and they have to license somebody else's. This is
Two people get it.
Yeah.
Tesla and somebody else. Yeah. And I think they're going to end up, and Elon always seems to be very happy with 20% of a market. It always seems to be kind of his goal on a market like that.
Yeah, but Gary calculates the market based upon what Uber and Lyft are doing.
Right.
He doesn't see that this is going to reduce the cost
Right.
of rides by a very dramatic amount, and it's going to expand the TAM, and the TAM is going to eat into the auto industry. He doesn't get that part of the story at all.
And I would make the argument that if there's two players, the price will come down faster, and because
That
the
is true.
competition will be, that's competition always is a huge.
Yeah, I mean, he in the conversation between him and Dan, that he posited that they would just share a portion of the market that Uber already has,
Yeah, right.
which
Yes.
is
Yeah, yeah,
which is ludicrous.
yeah, yeah.
Because if the price of ride hail is going to come down by 70%, 60%, 70%, which is the cost of the human being in the car,
Right.
then the TAM for ride hail is going to
Explode.
quadruple, maybe even more than quadruple,
Right.
maybe 8 times. It's very, very, very difficult to predict,
Right.
but it's going to be very different.
Right. So I ended up, Larry, in my analysis, thinking that maybe instead of Kathy's number of 7.5 trillion in 2030, that we might be looking, I'm sorry, $7,500 is the share price, that we might be looking at half of that for Robotaxi if we were at 20% sharing with other players.
I'm I'm not very comfortable with that, and I'll tell you why. Because I think the multiplier now becomes a divisor, and so I don't think it's just a scale back of that 7,500. I think it's a whole qualitative change.
Okay.
I think you're looking at hundreds of dollars of share price, not thousands of dollars of share price,
Oh, interesting.
because the pricing gets impacted directly
Yep.
because you're in a competitive environment and you have a leader, somebody else. You have, it's unclear who's the operational leader.
Mhm.
So I think that even though the TAM will expand by manyfold,
Right.
I don't know, 10, 20, I haven't looked
Right.
at the
Right.
numbers recently, but my sense is there's a zero, there's at least 1 0 in the multiplier. Then you really have to look at a shrinking margin, quite a significant shrinking margin, even though the TAM is going to be so large. So it's quite possible that you're going to lose 60, 70, maybe 75% of the potential share price.
Okay, so that would be, we could be looking at, like you said, 800, $900,000 a share instead of $7,500 a share for just the Robotaxi part of it.
Yeah, yeah. Look, Robotaxi is going to expand the TAM of the market to a gigantic
Right,
number
right,
because a Robotaxi takes the cost of the human out of the ride, and rideshare will become the dominant form of transport, will become a dominant form, if not the dominant form. This is what Gary insists on not recognizing, which is my criticism of him. I think that it's hard to imagine that, oh, well, Uber now has this many miles and Tesla will earn this percentage of that many miles, or whoever
right,
cracks ride hail, whoever cracks full self-driving autonomy will
right,
get a percentage of that. No, the ride hail business is going to expand out of all recognition
right.
because it's going to replace, people owning cars
It's going to
on a
replace
very large
us, it's
scale.
going to
It
replace
may
some
not happen
buses.
overnight, but it's going to definitely do it.
Yeah, it'll replace some public transportation. Elon thinks it'll replace some airplane rides. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of places that it's going to expand the TAM.
It doesn't even have to replace, mass transportation, although obviously it's going to replace a large percentage of mass transportation, but it's definitely going to completely replace drivers in seats. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Yep. No, the young people are already doing this with Uber and Lyft. It's already under.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at Optimus for a minute. It's for me, it was harder to imagine a downside case for Optimus. We
I have
almost
to say, I don't know if you, yeah, I don't know if you caught Gary's comment on Optimus. I mean, he calculated Optimus at a potential
yes.
of 500,000.
Units.
I my jaw dropped. My jaw dropped. I mean, I have been doing research the entire day
Yeah.
on
Oh,
Optimus.
you have? Okay.
Yeah, the entire day, and I'm going to be doing a piece on it, and I'm going to put it up in the next day or so. I've looked at all the literature, or all the published literature on the subject by the industry, by the robotics industry, and by many analysts on their estimates for humanoid bots, there isn't a single analyst who gets anywhere as low as 10 times Gary's estimate.
Actually, yes, right.
Not one.
Yeah, yeah,
And there are many that get to many times that number.
right.
So Gary is just wrong. He looked at, he said in his piece, he said that currently the market for bots are 500,000 a year. He's wrong. It's almost 600,000 actually. And he said maybe they'll get another 500,000, and that'll be, a million. He is so wrong, because that 500,000 he's talking about are industrial bots.
Right, right.
The average price of which is in the range of is $50,000 to $100,000 a bot, not even counting the cost of implementation, which is very high. It's as high as the bot itself.
Right.
So he's trying to compare a humanoid bot that's going to sell for something below 6 figures, tending down towards 5 figures. Trending down towards $20,000, not 5 figures, but 5 figures, but in the low 5 figures, below 100,000 to the low 5 figures, depending on
by 2030, almost certainly.
Absolutely certain, and I have the industry analysis for that, and will cost dramatically less, an order of magnitude less to train or to program, and can do multiple different functions, is not programmed for one function and gets installed for that one function. And the cost of changing its function is extremely high, both in time and money.
Right.
So to compare the one with the other and to make that statement is just mind-blowing. To be honest, it's ignorance. I have to call it out. And I know, my good friend Gary is going to bristle at saying that, but unfortunately it is. There is no comparison between what he calls the TAM of the bot market now and his projection of the TAM doubling in terms of volume.
Right. You may have seen my pieces this week where I talked about the ways that it'll be used in the home. And most people just think about it folding clothes and making your dinner, but I came up with 17 very distinct ways that it could be used in the home. He was asking, because he asked me also, he says, Randy, how is the average family? No average family is going to pay $30,000, to get this bot in their home. And I said, and the 17 ways, some of those for the average family, just the one method, just the one thing of babysitting would have been enough to justify the 30,000.
Randy, you don't have to convince me, and what you said is true. But here's the thing. Long before it's bought in the home,
yes,
while the prices are still at $100,000 a piece,
right,
and maybe more, maybe $150,000 a piece. Long before that, there is a huge laundry list of industrial applications where it immediately pays money.
Yes.
And I have detailed analysis of this. Detailed analysis of this, which I've already released. But the average bot, and I'm going to really shoot myself in the foot and the thing is, I'm not really shooting myself in this because I've actually published this before.
Okay.
But at a discount rate of 40%, think about that. The value of savings on a bot ranges between $84,000 net present value after paying for the bot, net present value of $84,000 for the lowest paying job in the factory.
Right,
You remember you talked about taking the bottles off the injection molding machine or the blow molding machine, and rises to $484,000 net present value per bot.
Per bot. Yes.
At the highest level of application.
Yes. Yes.
And the mean for the average wage in an industrial application in the United States, $250,000
in
net
savings.
present value at a 40% discount rate.
Yes. And that probably doesn't count the administration, the et cetera, on top of.
Does count
It does
all
count.
of the above.
Oh, it does. Okay.
It accounts for, and I was very heavy-handed on the
Yeah.
administration,
Yeah.
on the training,
And
on the maintenance, the repair,
hiring
the
and firing.
downtime. I did all of the above, and I come to a net present value for for the standard work done in
Right.
$250,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it replaces expert work, it's $318,000. And that's at a discount rate of 40% per annum
Yes.
for a 5-year net present value with all expenses
Taken care of.
taken in at really their highest level.
Right. Yeah. So this is exactly what I'm thinking. And I'm also thinking that Tesla is very close. It looks to me, I've been saying for a long time, it could already do the jobs that I needed it to do in my factory right now, it appears.
Well,
Not as well as I might like after it speaks to me or it's able to, but I think it could do the job. It could pick up those bottles. It could put the caps on bottles. I really believe it. So
I will say, I'm going to put a rider on this.
Okay.
What is the negative?
Yeah.
There's going to be hefty competition.
For more bots.
Yeah, by other bot manufacturers.
Yeah.
So that's going to somewhat, contain the price. There's going to be price competition.
I don't know, Larry, at least for that 5 years. Think about, I've been in business. You've been in business a long, long time. Unfortunately, I never had a product with a TAM of 7 billion. If you have a TAM of 7 billion and you have 100 competitors and one can make 100 a year and one can make 1,000 and one can make 10,000 and one can make 100,000, I don't see how, it's going to take you more than 10 years to even begin to address that market.
Well, let me introduce you to some Chinese manufacturers.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've seen them. I've been watching them.
So all I'm trying to say is that he is grossly wrong in his basic assumption.
So he was asking me though. So he's asking me, okay, what would be my lowest case? So here's my theory, Larry. We know Tesla has the ability to make tens of millions if they decide to. But if for some odd reason, let's say they only make 10 million per year in 2030, 10 million. That's a small number of bots.
By 2030, that's not a small number. That's a very, very large number. Don't over. Yeah, I think you're being too optimistic.
Okay, 10 million, because they were going to make 20 million cars in 2030.
10 million is a big number.
Okay.
10 million of anything is a big number.
Well, it's a big number, but that's
not a stamped part. This is not a stamped part. This is a machined part.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. We can take my number down, but here's let me tell you the rest. For some reason, they make 10 million or less. And let's say the profit is only $5,000 per unit, which I can't imagine. But let's say the competition really does bring that down to $5,000 per unit. Now that would have been 50 billion in profit. So you're saying you don't think it'll be 10 million, but maybe it'll be more than 5,000 in profit. I don't know. But that was my analysis for a low end, not maybe for the worst case, but for a low end.
But by 2030, we'll be looking at very many more than that number because it'll become apparent, the bot will have developed its superpowers. I call it their superpowers. We will have reached a point where the training will be easy. We will start entering the domestic market. We will start, reaching the top end of the industrial market.
Right.
The potential profit is going to be very large. China is going to be a very, very strong competitor in China.
Yeah.
The US, though, is a huge market for bots. Now, China went from like 17th in industrial bots to 2 in industrial bots in terms of numbers of industrial bots
Yeah.
per industrial worker. And so China went from 17 to 2 in the last 3 years.
Wow.
So they are booking on robots right now. By the way, I don't know I'm exactly right, but
Yeah.
in my piece I have the actual numbers, and I'm doing this from memory. It's in that order. So they're going to be a major competitor, major competitor. But I honestly believe that in this field, US manufacturers will be able to compete with China.
Mhm, mhm. So you think my $5,000 profit is too low, or you think my
I think it may well be low. I think it's more than possible that I think your number of 10 million may be high. Your profit may be low. Look, it's reasonable to expect a, a $50 billion profit, but here's what you have to consider. The TAM is so large that that's just the beginning.
right? Of course, I want them to be rented. I hope they will just
Oh
rent
yeah,
them and sell
no
them.
doubt,
And so
no
then you
doubt,
have this continuing income,
no doubt.
which is why it's going to be worth 25 trillion instead of 25 billion or something. So
Yeah.
anyway, we come out around 50 billion. Let's go on to these other ones real quick. We got semi. I think they'll eventually make 1 million a year, but I reduced that one to
I will not.
they will not. Okay, but I reduced my number for my low end number to just 250,000 a year.
That's too high.
Still too high. They can't take the 50,000 they're going to make in 2026 and
They're
get
not
to
going to make 50,000 in 2026.
that's what they said they're going to do. And that factory's ready to go. It's ready to they'll be making something by the third quarter probably.
Yeah, but then they're not going to make 50,000 in the second year.
Why is it going to take is it going to be harder to ramp the semi than it is to ramp the Cybertruck?
Yeah.
Why?
It's a much, much, much bigger beast.
No.
It's the batteries are is a huge battery, is huge amount of current that they have to deal with. There's a lot of engineering, and it's a lot more vehicle. It's going to take a lot to ramp, and it's going to take a lot to get the the transport industry to make the adaptations that they're going to have to make to implement it. It's not going to ramp like a car. It's going to ramp like a truck. I think if we get 25,000 in year one, it would be an incredible achievement.
Hmm.
My numbers are more like 20,000 to 30,000 to 40,000. That's the kind of numbers in my head. Because I've done the numbers. I mean, I've looked at the US truck industry and the numbers in the US truck industry. They only deliver, I think the number was 100,000 a year.
100,000 a year new trucks.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this before. I know that Brian Wang's number is large trucks, semi trucks plus large trucks, which is what they call them in China, is 4 million a year total. He thinks that Tesla should get the entire market. I said that was ludicrous. That's never going to happen.
No,
So I
no,
was
it's not
going
going to
for
happen.
I was going for 25% of the total
So
market.
I'm talking from memory. I need to pull my piece up because I did these numbers very, very seriously. But what I'm recalling, so I wasn't quite prepared for this conversation,
Oh
but
no, no, yeah, yeah.
I will find it. I will definitely find the number. Go ahead. Go ahead with your
Actually,
estimate.
I'm sorry. I think the U.S. is 400,000, Larry. I'm recalling now. 400,000 for the U.S. is semi trucks per year.
Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
That's the normal year. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
I honestly think we'll be very, very lucky if that's the normal number to get 40,000 in year one. Very lucky.
okay, how
There
about
isn't a single manufacturer that delivers 100,000. That's what I remember. Yeah, that's what I
yeah.
remember.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking that Tesla, of course, is different. But so give me your 2030 number then. If it's only 25,000 in 2026, what is it in 2030?
I mean, you could get to 100,000 in 2030 for sure.
Okay.
Um, there are very few manufacturers in the world that do more than 100,000 a year. I imagine most of them are in China, but yeah, I mean, it's possible, but it's going to become quite competitive.
Maybe, yeah, it could be. Again, when you put FSD on it, that changes everything. Obviously, it
Well, of
changes.
course, you said that maybe they don't crack
Well,
FSD and
no,
maybe
but
somebody,
I'm just saying. So you got one thing is the electrical part of it, but then if you actually do crack FSD, all of a sudden you have a much larger uh,
yeah,
profit per unit, as well as you have a much different market that is going to have to be. The
fair,
demand for it's going to be massive. Um,
fair.
so anyway, I had it down on that one. I had $40,000 per unit as profit. I had
Oh,
to,
profit. Whoa.
yeah, yeah. Well, 200 to $250,000 vehicle.
It's possible. It's possible. Yeah, it's possible.
Okay, and if it's only 100,000, like you're saying, that would get us down to only a $4 billion profit for 2030. Energy, I was thinking that we would be by then, we should be up to 100,000. This is my low number, remember, 100,000 of the packs per year, and that the cost would have come down by then to maybe 400,000. So the profit would be 100,000 per unit. So 100,000 units per year in 2030 at 100,000 profit per unit.
Okay.
Right, that's 10 billion. Cars, it's kind of hard because what's going to be a car then, but it's going to be all robo-taxis or is it still going to be a mix? But I still ended up, Gary's number, I think for 2030 is 8.5 million. That's one of the places he's the most bullish. But I decided to go with 10 million with a $5,000 profit per car.
Even the cars you take into the fleet.
Yeah, well, so if you put them in the fleet, obviously, then that's a much larger profit because if you're talking about probably 25 or $30,000 a year, even when the price comes down, even when the ride cost comes down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had a
Okay.
couple. Okay, all right. Anyway, so I think you're talking about with your numbers. So I came up with 26.50 per share as my low number. Sounds like your number would probably be more on the order of something under 2,000 as
Yeah.
a low number, like the not worst possible case. I don't consider a low number to be worst case. Worst case is like Elon dies and the new guys can't get it right. I mean, so so I'm looking at this as a low case, the unoptimistic, the pessimistic case.
I think that's a very fair number. That's my guess. Yeah, I don't disagree that it's possible. Um, yeah, it's possible.
And obviously, as you said earlier, on the high side, it's really all about, it's not 100%, but it's largely going to be about the Optimus rollout. How many can they roll out and how do they charge for it? The Robotaxi, I'm perfectly happy with Kathy's number as the, what do you want to call it, the bull number, and hers is, I think, $7,500 a share. And Elon agreed with her number.
Yeah, I would be a little bit more cautious, and so my numbers would be a little bit lower than yours, but in the order of magnitude is pretty reasonable.
All right. Well, I've already, I think I posted, yeah, I already posted
The
this.
new commercial truck sales through the second quarter were 231,000. It's possible it's 400,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was the number. Yeah. And then
Right now they're running well below the historic levels, by the way.
yeah, what happened is that during the pandemic, they need,
No, but I'm talking about now.
oh no, I'm saying what happened is you had the boom bust problem.
Yeah.
So they had to make a lot of trucks, when we had the shortages. And then as a result, they ended up with way too many trucks. So they've been in a depression for the last 3 years. The amount of loads, the total tonnage has been negative 3 years in a row. So then
Yeah.
you don't have as much demand for trucks, obviously, if you're not running as much product.
Yeah, it looks more like 240,000 trucks a year than it looks like 400,000, but okay.
Yeah. Okay. And so let's see. That was it with regard to my response to Gary. So we've taken care of my response to Gary. Any updates on your FSD experience as long as we're
Continues to be very, very solid. I mean, I can tell you the exact exceptions right now, and we've discussed them at length.
yeah.
But apart from those exceptions which remain, I can detail them. They're not a lot. I can detail them, but it is fantastic. It is so trustworthy now. Went very, very close to a red light the other day, turning left on an amber. I think amber actually changed to red before I crossed the second white line. But
So it was very human.
it was human-like in a way, yeah,
Very
and it was pretty safe because there was traffic, but everybody, was waiting for the last
right.
guy
Right.
to turn, and I was the last guy to turn. But other than that, I mean, it's just been amazing, just amazing.
Yeah, you've done this a lot cross country and whatnot. Went back down to San Diego, and I was coming back at like, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And I, I got concerned that I might fall asleep, but I guess the camera would get that and
Would
would
have get you,
keep me
yeah.
after like crazy. Because it's like, what do you do? I have my hands in my lap. I'm listening to somebody's podcast, but those don't always keep you awake.
I
So,
know. Unless they're Randy and Larry, then they keep you awake, right?
absolutely 100%. That's right. Okay, let's see. I was wondering was there anything else on my list? Well, we do have to look at the numbers, Larry. I know you've got company coming, so
Yep.
let's go ahead and look at the numbers. So as we mentioned, Tesla 22.47 today, a down and up 73 cents. Got 73 cents back in the after hours so far, Larry. So, that's pretty good. So the Dow was down 70.77. It's not really that
Not
much.
a big, yeah, it's not terrible.
NASDAQ was down 1.49. That's a bigger number. S&P down 1.11. But all the Mag 7, Apple down 1.32. I mean, just go down the list. Microsoft down 1.73. Nvidia down over 2. So it was across the board. Tesla down almost 5%.
I like Nvidia at these prices. A lot of
Yeah.
people criticize me for saying it, but I must say I'm getting itchy fingers.
Okay. Um, Bonds up 5.2 basis points today, 4.631. That's
Listen, at this rate, it's going to break 5%, and then you're not going to be as sanguine.
Yeah, my whole theory will be gone. I said they couldn't get over 4.5 this time, so I'm already wrong. So, what do I know? But I got the 5% last time. You're right. Thank you for remembering. So the 2 year was actually down a little, and the 1 month was barely up 0.8. So it was all about
Yeah.
the longs today. Oil, I think, stayed normal. I don't think it moved very much today. 64 cents. So it's still at $70 and change. Natural gas down a little bit. No, but not outside of the range. So all of that is that stuff is not moving that much. Gold,
And gold?
down 17, sitting at 26.36. I mean,
Wow.
right's where it's been. Silver's barely under $30 now, but it's been 30 to 34 for months at this point, I think. Yeah, I think it's been at least a month. It's been in that 30
Yeah.
to 34. Copper, $4.12. I mean, I almost feel like it's there every day. Now, Bitcoin, I want to briefly talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin down 1777 at 94.3. And what you're going to want to watch tonight at 7:45 is CERN Basher. People are going to have to put aside just a little more time because I think it runs an hour and 10. CERN Basher does a beautiful job of explaining everything there is to know about Bitcoin. And
Except what the price is likely to be.
except what the price is lately to be. Well, of course, Cern is a bull, a very serious bull, but he went through it in terms of how it's money, how it's a storehouse of value, comparing it to gold, comparing, I mean, just kind of went through the basic exercise, which Larry, you may not learn that much, but you might just enjoy it. I'm not sure. But for other people out there
I
who are like,
always learn from CERN. I
yeah,
always learn from CERN.
other people out there that are like me, though, that have really not dug in yet, not really gotten into the nitty-gritty of it, I think it was a fascinating hour and change. So that's coming up at
Yeah. I
7:45.
always learn from CERN. He's a wise head.
Wise head, yes, that indeed. So you're still not, you don't have Bitcoin yet, right?
I actually do have a really small investment in Bitcoin. I haven't moved on it a bit in like 4 years, but it's been there.
It's more,
Um,
it's more now than it was 4 years ago.
yes, it is.
It is. Now, what about MicroStrategy? Have you taken a position? I don't mean, have you bought any? Do you have a feeling about
I
that?
don't like MicroStrategy. I don't like it as an investment. It's just a highly leveraged investment in Bitcoin. It's just if you want to leverage your investment in Bitcoin, MicroStrategy is a good way to do it because you're not exposing yourself.
Oh, yes.
All you're doing is exposing yourself to a loss. You're not exposing yourself to a margin call or having, losing money and not having money to pay for it. But if do not, under any circumstance, buy MicroStrategy on margin. I
Yeah.
hate margin in general, but this is a particularly dangerous margin play. I don't know that you'd ever be able to get margin on MicroStrategy. Maybe there's some brokers who do it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What about futures? You gonna buy leaps on MicroStrategy?
That's got to be the crazy. That's like adding margin to margin. It's like
Right.
adding, sorry, leverage to leverage.
Leverage. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you really, really, really have got money to burn, but you're very, very, very bullish, then you could be crazy enough to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't recommend it.
We can do this on Monday, of course, Larry, but have you generated your number yet for Thursday?
Yeah, I actually went in to the tool that whoever posted that tool, I forget. I actually went in and put it in. I
Oh,
think I
no.
was at 502 or 504, something in that order. I'll have to look it up, but unfortunately I have to get
Yeah.
on the road. So, but
Right.
I'm just a little bit above 500 at this point
Okay.
based upon what I've done, based upon the calculations I've done.
All right. And then I've put out a strategy right now an analysis right now where I say we are now range bound between 420 and I'm sorry, 410 rather, 410 and 480 that we're unlikely to break out of that range unless there's some news, negative or positive, that would bust us out.
Well, you could be right.
Well, there you go. On that note, it's been lovely having you as always. And to all of you out there, it has been great talking to you.
Have a great weekend.